Okay, okay, we'll leave. Oh, yeah. Okay. Hello, everyone, and welcome to NJ Asia. Thank you for joining us today. We are very excited to host another practical and developer focused session for the Angular and the web development community. Today's topic: charted coding. Charted coding. AI assisted development without the drift. AI tools are becoming a part of our daily development workflow as they can help us move faster, explore ideas, generate code, and even debug a complex problem. But at the same time, many developers face a common issue. The AI starts drifting away from the original goal, changing too much code, losing context, or producing a solution that look good at but are not actually aligned with the project. That is why today's session is especially important. We will talk about how to use AI in a more structured way, how to guide it, keep it focused, avoid unnecessary changes, and make AI assisted development more reliable. Our speaker today is Yunus Jaidi, software cook, teacher, coach, Angular GDA, and NX champion. Yunus has a lot of experience helping developer write a better code, improve architecture, and use modern tool in a practical way. Please welcome Yunus Jaidi for this talk, Charted Coding AI Assisted Development Without the Drift. Yunus, you can start.
Cool. Thank you for having me. I will. Usually, I would start now, but today I've got a guest that want to do the intro. So I didn't even tell you, Ilya. So it's a bit of a surprise. So give me just 1 second so that they can take the 5 minutes for the intro. Hi, my name. Oh, where's the clicker? There it is.
Hi, welcome.
Can you see my screen, Elias? Good to see
Yes,
you.
yes, yes.
Very good. So my name is John Sebastian Butcherton, and my friends call me Butcher JS. Well, I don't have many friends except Elias. Now, if you want to be my friend,
Yeah, sure.
you want to be my first and only friend.
Yeah, yeah, sure.
Good. I'm happy to have a friend now. So today, my business, my clients, or let's say my manager actually, for one of their clients, is asking me to add to this recipe app where we search for recipes to add them to our meal for next week, to add pagination because it only shows 3 recipes. That's not enough. And so we're going to add the next and previous button. So let's go. I will open my IDE right now. And what it is. Oops, sorry. Here we go. So what I do, sorry. Okay. So here, I just create a new session in my favorite IDE. Can you see my screen? Good. Can you see my IDE?
Yeah, yeah, yes, 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 yes.
Okay, good. And I can just open a new session. And here, I will just say, maybe not here. Wait a second. best of n, I will ask my sorry. Oh, here's the right. So I want to add pagination to recipe search, and best of n is a skill in Cursor that allows me to ask multiple models to do the same job. So I will ask Composer, very good model. I'm gonna use Opus because it's also a very good model. I'm gonna use Codex because it's a very good model. I'm gonna use Sonnet because it's a very good model. I'm gonna use Gemini Pro. I'm gonna use Gemini Flash so that I can get a quick results. And I could use Fable. Don't have any much budget, and then that's when I will just have time to hang out, and that's where I usually start cooking. So I just let you watch this, and I'm going to my kitchen because I have to cook dinner because it's gonna take some time to compare all the results. So thank you for having me, and see you later. Wait a second. Uh,
Oh, we can't hear you. So, can you check sound?
and here, can you
Yeah, yeah. Now,
can you hear me?
yes, yes. Yeah.
Okay, good. So yes, so let's keep the agent working, and let's get back to our slides, which are just here. Where is it? Okay. And wait a second. I think I have a phone call. Yes. What? We're using all the budget. This. Yes. Wait a second. I have a problem with my computer. It's overheating with all the agents. Oh, got smoke all over the place. Yes. What? We're not making any progress with all the AI. I'm just generating a lot of. Yes, yes. I'm using a lot of models. Yes. I used what? What? 2,000 euros this month? Yes, yes. That's too much. Yeah. What? I'm fired. What? Okay. I didn't like this company anyway. Bye. Oh wow. I don't know what happened. Can you hear me? I don't know what's this
Yeah,
kind
yeah,
of
yeah.
intro is.
Yes.
It's I don't know that guy. It's just like the first time like I received them here. I wasn't here, so I don't know what he said. So I hope it wasn't rude. So um, I don't know what is running on my computer. What did he do? Oh, wait a
Uh,
second. He he started so many agents here. What's this? Oh boy. Oh boy, this is just running so many things. I'm gonna stop this. What's oh stop. I'm gonna just stop everything. What did he do? Anyway, so up. Let me just share screen. So my name is Yunus, and I'm from Lyon in France, and I use internet, so I have different platforms. So you can find me on Twitter, on Blue Sky, and on YouTube, where I have a YouTube channel where I present some few stuff. And one of the things that I wanted to show you is that, uh, up, wait a second, is that this agents didn't stop working, so they're just using all my CPU, and because we're running the test and everything. Oh wow, it's still running in the background. Okay, no surprise, the computer was smoking. Anyway, so, and I'm a software cook, so I just like you, trying to find the right ingredients, the right recipes to build apps, a little bit of this framework, a little bit of that, a little bit of Angular, a little bit of AI, or maybe that's too much. And then I'm trying to find the right balance. And I'm also an Angular GDE and an X champion, as Elias said. And my business is to train and coach teams to build better apps, and with my company, which is Marmicode. So, what I wanted to show you just before, and what we've observed with John Sebastian Butcherton, is that one of the biggest problems with AI today is polarization. So you got polarization and the reactance bias. So polarization, um, uh, and so you have people who don't really trust AI at all, and some people who trust it too much. So these are the two extremes. And the one of the side effects is reactance bias. And reactance bias is, whenever someone comes to you and is like, "Oh, you really have to try this. It's really great. It's really amazing." The more they say it, the less you want to do it. When some friends is like, "Oh, you really have to watch this movie," and then you're like, the more they talk about it, the less you want to watch it. And so the problem is to find the right balance between no AI at all, because I mean, like today, that would slow us down a lot, and that wouldn't be very, very pragmatic. And then you have the other extreme, which is, oh, you know what? You should be orchestrating teams of AI agents, and it's not just about one session, etc. And you have to create a factory of agents, and that can be complex. That can get out of control. That could be very expensive. So it can be considerable in some situations, but it's not always a good fit. But maybe there is something in between, and that's what I want us to look at today. So first of all, and I'm really curious about what's your experience with this. One of the problems I've observed with my experience is the drift. So uh, so things are way faster with the AI agents, like writing code, but the problem is that it's really hard to keep control of the trajectory, because the agent will write some code, you will review that, you will have other agents verifying that or reviewing. But even through all these safety nets, some stuff will get through and some problems will get through the review, and that's where the code is drifting. But it's not just about architectural drift, it's also the scope drift. How many times, like, you're using an agent and the agent just improvises and start doing something you didn't ask for, you know and how many times you, like, progressively, like, the agent starts making this architectural decision, and you're like, yeah, why not, and then the whole thing compounds and it becomes really out of control. Even if then you try to use the agent to fix that back, it's gonna be complicated. And the other problem is that the paradox of AI assisted software development is that if it's not done thoroughly, it can make us slow, and it's going to be expensive. And it's not just expensive about tokens, because each time we talk about the cost, we're mostly talking about the how expensive the LLMs will be, and how expensive the bill of our models will be, but or the computing, etc. But the main problem is the cost, is the human cost. It's the cost of review, the cost of reverting back. How many times like you start an agent, it does the work and it works for like 10 minutes or half an hour and you're doing something else, so you're multitasking and you lose the context, and you come back to it, there's context switch in there, and then you see the agent produced and you're not happy with that, so you just revert everything, so you just lost 20 minutes because it took you like at least 10 minutes or half an hour to review. So that's all that waste of time can make us slower. So we need to figure a solution for that. And so that these are like, in my opinion, like the two main problems. And even though slow and expensive are two different problems that are grouped together, and because time is money, so that's why. And the root cause, in my opinion, is the anchoring bias. Okay, so the anchoring bias is how we are biased by the first thing that we see. You know, like the first time, if I ask you, um, if I ask you to implement something, do some task, and if you just figure that out, well, you will really have a balanced choice. You will make a balanced choice in everything. You will do the research and make the good decision. But if I ask you differently, and if I'm like, I present a solution that I've been working on for for a day, and I'm like, what do you think of this? You're going to be biased, and you're not going to question my whole approach. You're going to just try, you're going to be nitpicking, oh, maybe you should use this or that, and we're going to fix two or three things. We're not going to fix the whole thing. So that's what happens a lot with agents, is that it produces some code, and sometimes we review that and we see this or that problem, but we're not questioning the whole approach. We're not questioning that other thing in that other file that we didn't have a look at, etc. And one of the side effects of this is isolated decisions. So this is a big problem we have in teams today, in my opinion. We had this problem before, and it got just amplified with AI, is that it's really hard to have like a good collective ownership in a team. So each developer is working on a PR and they're not talking with the others. And when they talk, it's really hard, because if I'm working on something completely different than you, and you ask me a question about what you're doing, etc., it's going to be very complex for me to dive into your problem, because I have my own problem and the communication will be hard. And now with agents, it's got worse because we're making isolated decisions. Because previously, whenever I would be stuck with something, I'd be like, hey, Ilyas, do you know what would be the good solution for this? How would you do this? And you'll be like, oh, maybe, what are you doing? We don't need that feature, actually. I'm like, oh, okay, sorry for that. You're right. But now I'm just working as in a tunnel, and whenever I'm stuck, I'm just asking an agent. So, and I'm making really impactful design decisions and architectural decisions, because I'm like asking an agent, or what is the best way of doing this, or figure out the best way of doing that, and they just do it, or I make the decision. But that's just lost in my session somewhere, some session I just closed, like I just did right now when I closed my ID, and just like, the session is, I don't know where it is. Maybe it's in my history, personal history, and of my IDE. Then there is the cognitive depth. The cognitive depth and the skilling, and that's for me also is a big problem with agents. Just suggestions, some architectural choices or technical choices or utility or tools. It's hard for us to question these tools. We don't know. Oh, is it a good approach or not? And progressively, we will lose complete control of that. And you have like some code that just works, but you don't know exactly how it works. One of my favorite example of this is TypeScript generics. Okay, so previously, before agents, TypeScript generics were a complex problem, and it's really hard to figure out like the right generic, etc., and the right typing. So usually, the best solution is to have a simpler design. So instead of having like this class or method that has different return types with a complex generic depending on the parameter, maybe we'll just have like two different methods, and this way it's simple for everyone. But now the agents will come up with that, and it's going to be there, but it's going to be more and more complex, and one day it's going to be very complex, and maybe even the agents will not be able to figure it out, and they will end up like hacking the type and casting as any, and stuff like that. So So, and you're completely out of it. And maybe the agent will even ask you, what do you prefer? Do you prefer if I split this thing in a union or something, or should I make a generic that does this? And you'll be like, I don't know. I don't even know what you're talking about. That's one of the things that I'm worried about today. And another problem is, as I said, the unconscious choices. So, for example, when you're having a session with an agent, they're asking you questions like, oh, do you prefer this approach or that approach? And sometimes they're just figuring out alone. And the agent is just choosing, should I use this or that? You know what, I'm going to use this. And they just go in some direction that doesn't fit your vision of the product or your company's culture or architecture or the other people in your team or etc. So, and you will have more and more of these choices that you've never decided for. Like it's just the agent making this decision. And so this causes the drift because you're moving forward. You think you're moving forward, but actually the boat is progressively drifting in some direction that nobody knows where it is. It's just like the agents going like in a different direction. But you're in the middle of the ocean, so you don't know exactly where you are, and you're just like, oh, it looks good. And the other problem is that we often don't have enough checkpoints. So what I mean by that is that's one of the root causes, is that the moment you start using agents relatively seriously, you see like huge PRs. You have like the agents dropping like huge commits and huge PRs and huge changes, and it's like from zero change to 1,000 lines. You just get like this big chunk of code, and you're like, what am I supposed to do with that? And given we didn't have like many little checkpoints together, it's just like one big checkpoint. The problem is review fatigue. So I think that's one of the biggest pain points here. We're all tired of reviewing. Like anytime I ask this question, like in a conference room or something, and when there's like, I don't know, 500 people, I'm like, who likes reviewing? There's always like two people. I always ask them, please come to me later so we can chat, because I want to understand how, I want to open your brain and see how it works, because nobody likes reviewing, because it's really hard to read code. It's really hard to read code in general. And also because you have to think of many things. You have to think of the problem you're solving, the solution. Does the solution match the problem, etc. And sorry. Oops. Oh, sorry. And one of the reasons behind this review fatigue is that a typical model like Opus or Fable, etc., will have a maximum output just in one prompt. They will have an output of maximum 128 thousand tokens, and that's not even true about code, because in one session it can produce like millions of lines of code, and it's not just the maximum that it can produce, but it just gives you an example of like the typical outputs that one LLM can give you, like just the pure LLM. And me personally, I have a maximum output of 1,000 tokens. You give me more than 1,000 tokens and I'm already done. Just here, like for example, with all I said from the beginning, that's already too many tokens for most of us. So you probably lost lots of information there, and it's okay. And that's how human brains work. Like we can't process most of us, at least me, I cannot process lots of tokens. So 1,000 tokens is around like 50 or 100 lines of code, and that's the maximum I can really read. Afterwards, it's just like my brain doesn't work. So that's the main problem with review fatigue. Then there's the problem of the steering cost. So here's an exercise. Next time you start reviewing something, try to guess how much time it will take you to review, and then start a timer. And once you're done, stop the timer. Try to guess the time it took. You'll always think that it's going to take 5 or 10 minutes, and usually it will take longer. Usually, sometimes it's less, but usually it's longer. And that's the problem with the steering cost. So imagine you ask an agent to do something. It's working. You go do something else. You come back. It takes 10 minutes. Might take an hour sometimes, or it might take hours, several hours, because like recently I was doing something relatively complex, and the agent was, each time it would make a change, it'd have to run like a huge amount of all sorts of gates of tests and stuff that would just then take 1 minute. So each time try something, it has to wait 1 minute. Anyway, so the problem is you come back, and after 10 minutes, there's like 100 lines of code or 1,000 lines of code. And first, you try the app yourself. So you start it, you sign in or whatever, like, oh, it looks like it works, etc. Then you start reviewing the code. And then after like half an hour of reviewing the code and testing the app, etc., you realize that the whole thing is actually wrong. You know, and so what do? Do you prompt it again to fix that, or do you come back to your last checkpoint, like you revert everything? And that's where the steering cost becomes a problem, because it's really hard to have the courage to make that decision of throwing away 1 hour of work. Like the agent might have been working for like it might have cost from $5 to maybe $100 depending on what you did. Like for example, as uh, John Sebastian Butcherson did before, maybe he started 10 different models on the same task in parallel, so that can be very expensive. And then at the end I have to throw that away, and first, and then I also throw away half an hour that I've spent reviewing and testing the thing that I'm not happy with. So is that okay or not, like to waste that much time? Maybe I learned something, so maybe it's not such a waste of time. Maybe I didn't learn anything, so maybe that was a waste of time. And this is what we also call the sunk cost fallacy, is that once you spend money on something, and you spend a lot of money on something, it's really hard to just stop the project and stop the thing you're doing. Like, yeah, but now that we spent so much money and so much time, we have to finish, and that's the problem. And the other problem is slow feedback loop. So the more the task is bigger and the checkpoints are further from each other, when I say checkpoint, it's a commit or anything. It's just like a safe place. You're like, okay, my code is stable and safe, and now I'm going to move to the next step. Well, the problem is that the bigger the steps are, and the slower the feedback loop is. And the feedback loop is crucial. So the problem is that if I start something that takes more than seconds, you will start context switching, and that's where you have the context switching tax. And for example, my context switching tax is super expensive. Like when I move to one topic, from one topic to another, it takes me so much time in my brain to switch. I'm like, oh, where was I? You don't have the whole context in your mind. So, and that's a common problem you see. And you see all the tools right now are like, hey, look, I can open 5 agents at the same time. Oh, look, I have a tool that orchestrate the agents. Oh, look, I have this, and I'm like, yeah, but I cannot follow all that. So that's a big problem. So ideally, I would like to finish one task at a time. I don't want to work on hundreds of tasks simultaneously, because at the end, sometimes I even forget what I'm working on. Like, what did I start? I don't know if it happens to you. Like, you start something, like, what happened there? And so, and all these things like feed each other. So they make us slow and they make everything more expensive. But I'm not gonna dive into this too much. But the isolated decisions are bad for the cognitive depth and the skilling, because previously we would chat a lot as a team, but today with agents we just learn and chat with the agent, and I don't share everything I learn with other developers. you know and so that can create a problem. And of course you will tell me, yeah, but then you can generate the docs, or you can generate a skill, and you can compound all that information you learned in a tool. But yes, but it's always tools. It's not about human interaction anymore. Anyway, so all these things, like, they feed each other, and the steering cost becomes also very expensive, because as if you don't see what the agent is making as a choice, and then you want to come back, it's going to be very hard to come back to the previous point, because you're going to let it try whatever it's trying, because we don't understand that much of what it's doing. Anyway, so all these things, they feed each other. And the way I see this is like sailing. Like, you're in the middle of the ocean, you're on a boat, and you want to go to that island over there. And so you put an agent in the boat, and you're like, okay, let's go to that destination. I just want to go there. Get me there. And then the agents start navigating, and you're like, oh, it looks good. And then as you get closer to the goal, start doing like weird things and like, oh no, I don't want that. What are you doing? No, come back. I want to go there. And then that's where things get problematic. And I observed this a lot. Like Pareto law applies to agents. Pareto law is like 20% of the effort produces like 80% of the effect, and the last 20% costs 80% actually. And that's exactly what happens a lot with agents. Like with 20% of the effort, like in 5 minutes, they get you 80% to almost to your goal, and you still have 20%. And that last mile is the most expensive one. That's usually where you have, oh, this test is failing, and the agent tries to fix it, and then adds a little hack there, and it's not working. Then he add another thing there, and then it's not perfect, and then that's where you start coding things. And that's where we lose a lot of time and money. So one of the problem that, so it's such a common problem that people realized, yeah, but it works better if you have a better plan. You can't just go sailing, oh, let's go there, but you're like, hey, look at the weather, there's a storm, we cannot navigate today. So you start with a plan, and you ask the agent to help you or to make the plan. And we all know if a plan is good, everything is going to be fine. Like just with waterfall, if you have 200 pages of specification, what could go wrong? Yeah, of course. And so you start with the plan. So it's all started first with plan mode. So all the agents started having this plan mode. Let's think of the plan first before doing what we're doing, which is nothing new. Like I've been fighting for this for years with teams. Like, please shut down the screens and think of what you want to do first on a paper or just in your brain or just talking, and then we code the thing. And sometimes we start coding and they're like, I'm going to start coding, and from there I'm going to get brilliant ideas. Now you never get brilliant ideas while you're coding. Well, sometimes, but anyway. And so that's where you have different workflows that can help with that. The problem is sometimes you might end up with a plan that has 2,500 lines just to add. This is just to add the pagination on the recipe search, and 2,500 lines of markdown. That's too much for my brain to review, and it's just text. And I've realized also that reviewing code is hard. Reviewing text is harder because it's not a good abstraction layer, because the same sentence can mean many things to a lot of people. Just ask politicians, they know a lot about this. Like they say one thing and everybody's happy. But it's because everybody understood something different and everybody's happy, so that's perfect, let's do that. So it's exactly the same. You can have like a specification like, oh, it looks good, but the agents understood something that other agents understood something else, etc., etc. So it's not, a specification is not executable. It's code is executable. When I read a code and I see, and even with code, sometimes it's random, okay? But generally speaking, when you have like a function that says, I'm going to grab this parameter and I'm going to multiply by 2, it's usually going to return the double, or sometimes it's going to return not a number, but usually it's going to return the double of the number. And this is what became specification-driven development, and there you have tools like SpecKit, BMAD, and OpenSpec, etc. The problem is that they tend to produce a lot of Markdown, and you have to review that, and it's hard, and that's one of the problems. And actually, one of the premises of SpecKit, and they really say this in their principles and ideas, is that SpecKit is the idea that specifications become executable, but it's not. Specifications are not executable. Saying that specifications are executable through agents is like saying this code is executable in any runtime. When you have different runtimes and they do random things, and each runtime has like a different set of syntax and APIs, etc. Of course, it's not going to be predictable, and so because it's undeterministic. And so what happens here is that we have a plan, and like, what could go wrong? Hey, little boat, can you navigate to that island following the plan? But sometimes you forget things in the plans, even if with agents and stuff that review your plan. And there's a surprise in the middle. And one of the things that happen a lot, even if you have like some stuff in your in your skills that says, or in your workflow that says, oh, if you meet something weird, stop. Sometimes, and most of the times, agents improvise. And they're like, oh, I'm gonna find a solution for this, and they're gonna circumvent the problem, and they're gonna go to another destination. And then you're like, oh, here we go. And then you're like, yeah, but this is not where we were heading. It's like, yeah, but it's another continent. It's fine. Let's go there. Let's call this America, and let's call these people Indians. And like, and so this is how like the problems happen with specifications. Just like you have a plan and you don't know if it's going to be followed thoroughly or not. And what would be better is, and that's actually what happens with sailing, is just like you cannot come up with a very thorough, precise plan. You have like the big picture, but you know that you cannot predict the weather for more than 1 or 2 weeks, and like precise weather. So you just come up with a little plan, the big picture, and from there you start with some chunks of that, and you just give little instructions to your agents from that initial plan, and you're like, let's go to the next checkpoint, and then the agents will go to the next checkpoint, and then from there, without even running the agent, you just see, oh, we're going to meet this problem, and you're going to see the challenge, and from there you can ask the agent to circumvent that challenge this way or that way, or you can even manually take control. Like, for example, oh, I want to rename this class, and you just rename it, and that's it. And then you can give the next step from that checkpoint and go to the next target. And sometimes the agents will just drift and go to some dead end, and like, no, it's fine. Each step is so fast that I can get back to the previous one and try again, and now I get to my targets, and I'm in full control of the whole thing. So the idea behind this is that, and it's nothing new. It's something that I've been using with many teams before AI. So before like all these AI assisted development workflows. And one of the ideas that turned out to work really well is to have design docs all the time. So, or at least for serious features. So a design doc has a very thorough structure that I will show you. And from that design doc, which is not a specification and it's not a product requirement, it's really more fine grade thing about like how we're gonna solve the problem. And then we go TDD. So I'm gonna write my failing test from that specification. I'm gonna be like, please write failing tests, then make the test pass. And this is the red-green phase of the red-green refactor of TDD. And once the tests are passing, whatever the code looks like, whether it's dirty or not, whether it's not using signals or if it's using signals, and from there, I'm gonna realize that some things don't look good or they look good, and then I'm gonna be like, oh, you know what, please refactor like this or like that, and by the way, please add this to our skills so that the next time we remember to always do this way. And one thing you realize in this workflow and is that the tasks at the top are the creative work that needs more human participation, and the tasks at the bottom need less human presence, and they're more time consuming, like making the test pass, for example. And sometimes you would spend like 1 hour reading the docs to figure out the right API, etc. And an agent is really good at that and is really good at brute forcing. And I realized that before using AI, I was really hoping that someday we get like some AI assisted development workflow, because I've realized that when I write design docs, I can barely even listen to music, and usually it's a work that we do as a group, etc. And writing the failing test is also hard. I have to think of the tasks, etc. And the green part, I realized that making my test pass is when I'm in zombie mode. I'm just like listening to music and I can chat with people because I have my tests that are there that are red and then they're gonna turn green. And I don't care if the implementation is good or not. I just want to make my test pass, And so the idea is, it would be better if we keep the humans more focused on the design and a little bit more in the test, but a little less in the implementation, but a bit more for refactoring. And you really have to split these steps. And of course, you will have to compound all this information in your agent skills or any documentation that will be useful for humans and agents. And this will feed the rest. And this is the idea of charted coding, is that you start charting. You chart things because you have the design doc, the failing task, the skills. This is all the structure that you put around your workflow. It's part of your AI assistant development harness. And then you have autopilot mode. It's just like make the test pass. And finally, you have the steering. It's when things go wrong, you refactor, or you update your design doc, or you update the agent skills, etc., or you add another task, etc. So you do that regularly, and it's really quick checkpoints and steps. So what did you say? It's boring. Too many slides. Yeah. Okay. So let's live code. Yeah. Let's live code. Let's see how this goes. Just gonna grab my apron here, and let's go. Do you like cooking, Elias, or do you prefer coding?
Um, it depends. It depends the situation.
If you're hungry for code or you're hungry for
Yeah,
food.
yeah,
Oh, I
sure.
see. I see. So, uh, I hope you're hungry for code now, right now.
Yeah, yeah.
So, okay. Uh, I just need my ID, so I'm using cursor. Um, and this time it's gonna be less chaotic than, hopefully, than what uh, um, uh, John Sebastian Butcherson did on my computer. And okay, let's go. So here I have like my repo with my application with recipes and everything, and I want to add the pagination. So for such a task, indeed, I could just go with plan mode or just please add pagination, and we'll see how it works. And if it's not, it's going to be relatively fast. But even for that, I tried. It can produce lots of code. If or I could use SpecKit, and let me show you just quickly how it looks like with SpecKit. So SpecKit is a workflow where you even have a CLI that allows you to do all this specification-driven development, and you write the plan, you write the specs, you write the plan, and then it does the job. Again, you could use SpecKit to do such workflow, because in SpecKit you can have gates, you can have like baby steps, etc. But it's not the default behavior. We need lots of customization of SpecKit. And here, just to show you, oh, sorry. What, I'm going to open just the ID version so that we can see it. This is just to show you with SpecKit, just for this pagination thing. I have my spec file that, well, it's an old one. It has all this thing. I have to read English like this. It's really long. I get really bored, and there could be in this, like all these feature requests, there could be one line here that is weird and I missed. So this is the anchoring bias. It's really hard to catch like big problems, and it's also discouraging. Like imagine you've produced this whole thing. It's really hard to say start again without this, or change this, and maybe when you ask it to change something, it changes another thing, you know. And then you have a plan, and the plan is this. You're like, oh, okay, the constitution check, okay, I'm got modern Angular patterns, okay, that's good, that's good, that's good. It's going to use this, and this is the file system, and blah blah blah. And then you can have the tasks here. You can see, okay, what do I have here? I have like a first test is to do this and to do that, and task number 3 is this. And this can be produced pretty quickly, but it's the agent is way faster than us, and it can really put us in the direction that we don't want to go, where we don't want to go. And here it's checked It's summarized. It's figuring out the it figured out like how the API works, etc. So maybe there is a big problem here. Maybe there is a big mistake. Maybe it because it discovered this at runtime by trying the API, but maybe it didn't check the the my uh, Open API specification, like the Swagger specification, because I forgot to put it on the repo and couldn't figure it out. So maybe it didn't find it. And the runtime it had is wrong because it was on the wrong version of the API. You see what I mean? So there could be mistakes here that are really, really hard to catch. So at the end, as I said, this is 2,500 lines of markdown that you'd have to verify. And if something goes wrong there, it's your fault, or whose fault is that? What are you going to do if there's a big problem at the end? So the idea is I wanted something with more baby steps. So what I do is that I have my own skills for this. They're very simple. They're open source. I'll share that with you at the end. And I start by designing my feature. And I'm like, add pagination to recipe search. Perfect. And here, it's going to be an interview. So that's the cool thing. It's going to be an interview because I don't want the agent to produce the whole specification. And sometimes I don't interview. Sometimes I, generally speaking, seriously, for most complex tasks, I write the specification, the design doc myself or with my team. Because each line takes minutes to discuss and stuff, you know. It's not just, oh, okay, do this or do that, you know. And I don't want to be influenced by the agent, you know. But I will challenge that later with the agents, of course. And here it's like, what is the problem you're trying to solve? And that's really good because what matters is not the solution, it's the problem. What's the problem you're trying to fix? Because that's the goal you want. And I'm like, what is the problem? Yeah, so usually casually blah 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 blah. Uh, who has this problem? It's the user building the app. What pain or need does pagination address? Pages slow, long scrolling, change filter, scrolling through a huge list. And no, it's actually, we only have, we only display 5 recipes maximum. And we don't want users to filter by keywords. We want them to navigate and discover more recipes. And perfect. Why by the way, I'm using a tool called Whisper for writing. It's really good for the transcription, for because like all the native stuff doesn't work that well. And special thanks to my friend Sebastian, who it's not that Sebastian, it's not they really showed me the tool a while ago. And why does solving this matter? Why does solving this matter? Why does solving this matter now? The API use polish because we want users to eat more. Okay, good. And the cool thing, and this is very important, is that I wanted to. It's always writing each step of the design doc live. I don't want like a big thing at the end. I want to do this and I want to commit each step. Maybe I'm going to share my goals, and maybe if I'm hesitating, I'm working on this and I start working on my goals, and I can take the link and send it to my friends. I'm like, what do you think of these goals? And let's browse the structure. So we're going to have the goals here. The meal planner is browsing too many recipes, blah, blah, blah. And I could reduce this. I usually reduce this to the minimum because it's too much information. More importantly, the non-goals. I don't know, yes, if you've observed this, but agents tend, even with, I've tried with all sorts of models, even with Fable and frontier models, they tend to, the problem is not that they can solve your problem or not, they tend to do more than what you've asked for.
Yeah, sure. Yeah. Even the bigger models like
Yeah,
a Fables, they
be-
uh, Just wasting tokens.
Exactly, and plus they add surface because they add code that you will have to maintain, and that's a big problem. That's something I've been advocating for a lot. Is that like we always think of software as features of as something you buy. Like how much is this feature? Oh, it's 1 point or $1 or blah blah blah. But no, each feature has a rent. It's not like a technical debt or something. It's you really have a loan that you have to pay every month for each feature. So you have to be minimalistic, you know. So you
Yeah.
have to ask the agent, please don't be creative.
Yeah.
And then the behavior, the design, the testing strategy, and then we'll have the PR plan at the end that we'll talk about. So let's continue. Oh, this is good. And as you can see, right now for the design doesn't take that much time. And now it's like keyword filtering exists today. Remove keyword filtering, keep filtering. Perfect. What is explicitly out? Oh yeah, we don't want infinite scroll. We don't want users to choose page size. And usually, you know what happens? Like you start using Angular material, and the paginator of Angular material has this thing to choose the page size, and you're like, oh, we have it, so let's use it. But the problem is that we don't want that because maybe it's going to confuse users. Maybe we'll have users asking different questions. Maybe if you allow 50, it's going to have like performance problems because people will set 50 on their desktop browser, and that will be saved in their remote session, and when they're on their mobile it's 50 again. It has a performance issue. So you see, and that's where you start like having problems from that. So no, right now we don't want that. We don't want syncing the URLs. We don't want to show how many pages there are. We don't need that anyway. And yeah, the pagination but is on the server, so we don't want to skip that. Page size always 5. Pagination is client side. This is very interesting. Like each time I run an agent on this, sometimes it's want to do the pagination on the client side, sometimes it's want to do pagination on server side. It's really doesn't decide. It's really random. So no, pagination is server side, and we only want. Oh, sorry. Plus only previous and next controls. Oh yeah, and changing filters resets to page 1. That's a common issue. Okay. And what is below? Yeah, it's good. Previous is disabled on this page, of course. Don't even care about the loading indicator for now. Page 1 loans and mounts, 5 words be shown. Okay, good. Come on, it's asking too many questions, but they're good questions. And okay. So you see, and the interesting thing is that by asking these questions, this is often the moment where you will chat with the business. You will ask your product owner, your clients, or your users, and you're like, oh, that's a good question. I don't know. Like, what do you prefer? What happens when I click this or that? And now it's want to continue for the design. I want to show you that this part is really fun. Well, relatively fun. I mean, there are more fun things to do in life, but I want to show you the mermaid diagram. Where should the current page number live? In offset signal in recipe search. Because here it's made like a choice that's not the one I want, so I'm choosing this. And I want to create a new pagination component. I want to call it new paginator component. How does the recipe request page from servers? It's offset. Oh, sorry. Yes. This. It's cool that we have time because I can go through the whole design thing because it's really interesting to see how the design doc gets constructed. There's a trick at the end I want to show you. So, and of course, Elias, now there's no more John Sebastian Butcherton with intervening with his stupid sound effects that don't work. You can interrupt me anytime.
Yeah, okay.
If you have any questions. Are there questions in some chat or something?
Yeah, yes. On YouTube, we have 3 questions from
Oh,
users.
good. Oh, yeah.
Can we start or in a,
Yeah, let's do them
and
live. So that's, yeah, it's good.
yeah, okay. The first question is, when using AI coding tools, how do you define a clear technical boundaries so the AI changes only the intended part of the code base? This question from a Mike.
Okay, really good. Okay. Um, can we keep it for the end?
Oh yeah, okay.
Or because it depends on the questions. Because like if it's well, I can give a quick question and we can come back to it as a bigger picture. So the idea is that I'm not like, oh, please don't change this during this task or stuff like that. Is that typically with this design doc, as you will see, it will almost, because you're doing like really baby steps, you can really control that you're not changing anything except what you want. If you, another thing which is very interesting is, for example, I use NX, and in NX you have module boundaries. And the cool thing about module boundaries is that you can, it will not prevent the agent from writing here or there, but at least it's not going to be able to import that thing here or that thing there. For example, it's not going to be import backend code in the front end. It's not going to be able to use the HTTP client or resources in a service that is in this folder. So that is crucial that you define like these boundaries that say, okay, in general, you're not allowed to do this and that, but they're enforced by rules, so that the agent can have like, depending on what you're doing, it can have like hooks, or you can use hooks in your agent, or you can use a goal that say, okay, the tests and or gates, you can have things that say at the end the test and the linting should pass. So you can have your own tool that's where you, like, if you change something outside of this folder, it fails, it exits with one, and you can ask the agent to, at the end of each turn, it runs a hook, the hook runs your program, and the program says, oh, you modified this file, you shouldn't modify this file, please figure it out differently. So you could do something like that, but generally speaking, I don't do that because I have more controlled, like with my charted coding thing, it kind of helps. I
Okay.
hope it answers your question, Mike.
So at the end, or I can
Oh, no,
read.
you can continue. I was thinking like it depends on the question. Like if it's like a
Oh yeah.
more philosophical question that can have like a long answer, or it's triggered long discussion, we better keep them for the end. But it's, if it's more like
Yeah,
comfortable,
it's
we can.
also a question from Mike. For developers using tools like Cursor, Cloud Decode, Klein, Copilot, or similar assistants, what practical rules should they follow to avoid losing control of the code base? The same. Yeah,
Yeah,
you
it's
already
it's what
answered.
it's what we're doing here. Is that like,
Yeah,
yeah, I give you really clear goals, and I'm reviewing each baby step, and it's
yeah,
not about like, hey, add this feature to my app, and that's it.
yeah.
Yeah.
Last question from Dauron. How can teams combine AI coding tool with CI, CI linting, type checking, code review, and automated tests to keep quality under control?
Oh, well, I
Yeah.
will show you in the next steps.
Yeah.
I will show
Okay.
you in the next step. Yeah, so that's a really good one. I'll show you this. That's a really good question. Um, uh, so, uh, okay. So now, back to, and if there's any question that pops, let me know. And we just have to remember the question about like how do you
Yeah. If we have a
integrate the
question, I
CI
will.
and test
Yeah.
it?
Okay.
So the design. So here it's added like oh, sorry. Oh, here it did like all the uh, some design choices, like for example, here when I change like an interface or something, like in the design, there can be like a section usually with the implementation details if there are any. So this is like the free space where you can add whatever you want about the design, the implementation, create this new class, this new thing, etc. And here, what is interesting is that I've in the skill I've added like some practices on how to make like the design the mermaid diagrams, and I have like a convention which is like Angular services are circles and Angular components are squares, for example, or rectangles, and inputs are between brackets, and here it didn't show the inputs, and the outputs are between parentheses. And here we see that the search a method of recipe repository has changed, and it's returning an observable, returning recipes. And here I'm like, oh, there is something wrong. So first I'm gonna be like, remove recipe filter form from the diagram because it didn't change. Remove the catalog also because it didn't change. And the paginator API is actually three offsets which are offset. There's three inputs which are offsets, limit, and total, and one output which is offset change. And this is because, for example, we had a discussion with our team, and we didn't write it in the design doc yet, that we want to use the offset instead of pages for some reason, because it's easier for us to manipulate, or it's more of a habit. I don't know. And good. Well, it put them in different squares, the inputs and outputs, but at least it's very clear. I can review this. And from here, to answer also Mike's question, you see, you can have the list of files that will be changed, and you can have like something that says, oh, now I know what's happening, and if the agent changes any file that is not in the list, it's gonna fail. We can make a test for that, a hook or a gate for that. And now I have like an implementation details, a lot of stuff here that we can think of later, like, oh, we have to pass the limit and offset, we have to do this, we have to do that. And here I'm like, okay, continue. And now I did not commit any change because I didn't want to do it on my own branch here, but usually I commit every step so that you can review the whole thing baby step progressively. Which units should have tests? That's interesting. So for example, I will have maybe just an end-to-end test that's testing the recipe search with the real repository, or maybe with the fake, we'll see, and one on the paginator. So that's one of the things that is hard to figure out with the because you cannot have like thorough rules, strict rules, because it will depend on many things. So it's one of the toughest decisions, the testing strategy, and you don't want to end up with, and that's the problem with agents, you might end up with there are even papers on this that show that agents tend to create a lot of tests that are over mocked, and you have lots of tests that unit test a lot of things and mock everything that are too narrow, call these like super narrow tests, and over specifying. And you can also end up with lots of end-to-end tests that are very flaky, very slow, and you will keep asking your agent to fix the flakiness, and etc. Browser tests, it's good. And oh, it figured out a testing strategy. I like to think of it myself, but anyway, so it depends. I'd like to have like a little interview so that I'm not influenced. So I want to disable the previous button, the next button, that's good. Emits offset change when I click next, emits offset change when I click previous, so that's good. I don't want to check that the button is enabled, because this will be checked by the recipe search that will load everything and click next. And if that breaks, I just want one test to fail. I don't want all of them to fail. So this is the kind of decisions that you make, just to show you that you can make this kind of choices here. And here, displays first page on mount, it's useless because I already have a test that does this. And navigate to next page. Okay, this is good. And navigates back to previous page, resets when I do this, good. Next and previous page are hooked the same way because it's offset changed. So of course it's gonna work. So I don't need to add a test for that. And at the end, this is very good. I have like it did a good choice here. The PR plan is how are you going to ship this feature progressively, because you don't want to come with a huge PR, and some problems are complex and they cannot fit in 100 lines, right? But you can split them in little chunks. And this is where you can have like a new PR here, paginator PR, that just adds the paginator, even though nobody's using it right now. But I'm gonna review that and I'm gonna merge it, and then I can have like another agent working on adding pagination to the recipe repository that's calling the backend. And at the end I will have like a PR that merges everything together. And this is the kind of things where right now I find the agents not always as creative as teams to figure out how to do it really into baby steps, but it's really crucial so that you have like really small PRs to ship. And even without agents, this was like a really good practice to have like in a team to ship things progressively. And then I'm like, yeah, good. Now that we're done with this, because now I see the big picture and I've cut everything. Like now that I have the design and I know how many PRs I'm gonna cut this into. Well, the last step is that it picks all the things that we've seen before. But wait, here we don't have the folding. Oh wait, oh, sorry. What did he say? Did we consider other? Oh yeah, at the end there is the other alternatives, the alternatives that we considered but we didn't do. We will use this later to keep this in our history. We'll put this in another document maybe. So we don't want infinite scroll because it's not in our company's culture to let people scroll forever. And we don't want page number. We don't want client-side pagination instead of separate signal. Yeah, we considered that. We didn't do it. Anything else? No, nothing else. Just keep the kitchen sink empty. The kitchen sink is an idea from Alex Okrushko from the NGRX team. We had a discussion about design docs years ago. It's only they have this kitchen sink thing where you just put any random IDs there first before putting them back in the design doc. And so here I have everything here, but the preview in the agent window is not as good as the one in Cursor. And so here's how the design doc looks like. One of the rules in my skills is that it's not allowed to write paragraphs. It's only allowed to write sentences that fit the screen. It's easier for us as humans to review that. Then I have checkboxes for the behavior at the end to make sure that the whole behavior is there. Then I have like the design here, the inputs, the output, blah, 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 the PR plan, and that's it. And now we can commit this, we can merge it, and we can start working on this on like different PRs. And I can have someone working on PR number 1. We have the tasks here and we have the tests to write. And then I have PR number 2 and we have the tasks and tests, etc., etc. So now what's next? So in charted coding, you start with the design. And then one of the cool things is that I have a skill called charted review, which should be actually called charted design review. And actually it's even better if I start like a whole new session. And I'm like, can you review this design doc? And the cool thing, and this is one of the parts that I love, is that it's super simple skill again that starts multiple sub-agents that have different skills. One is an accessibility expert, one is a security expert, one is a UX expert, and the last one is an extreme programming expert that focuses on like testing and simple design, etc. And each one of them gives feedback on the design doc. And the cool thing is that the orchestrating agents will compare the recommendations, and if they have competing recommendations, it will challenge each one of them with the other approach of the other one. And there's always a battle between the UX one and the XP one. The UX wants to add a lot of things. They're like, oh, we should add like the pagination, the page number, blah 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 blah. And the extreme programming coach is like, no, 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 keep this simple. So, and they have like a chat through the orchestrator to figure out like a consensus at the end. So that's pretty cool. Anyway, it takes some time. So this is a very crucial part, but let's skip it now because it takes some time to just have them all go through the accessibility ID, accessibility check boxes and the security, different security aspects, etc. And you can see here's the the list of changes just for accessibility. Like, oh, you should add an area label for the results and blah blah blah. You should add an announcements for the result change, etc. You could use RX resource for this and for that, blah 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 blah. And it's adding other ideas, you know. And what did the XP coach say? They're like, oh, is broad refactor touch point, keep it simple, blah blah blah. I don't know, many unnecessary coupling, etc. etc. So anyway, I don't care about their feedback. So let's move to the next step. And now the next step, and this will probably answer one of the questions of Mike. So I'm like, can you scaffold in the design doc PR number? Which one I want, by the way. Let's work on the paginator because it's the easiest one to isolate. Okay, so we're gonna start with sorry. Boop, boop, boop. Paginator, the paginator component. So here, well, usually I've already committed my design doc and it's merged and everything. And I don't know why it takes so long. Usually it's really fast step. I don't understand why it started with subagent though. Did I hit some limit or something? Okay, good. It's almost done. And good. Good. Mm-hmm. Oh, it started the subagent just for the research to explore the repo. I hope it.
Yeah, we have another question by
Yeah.
by
Perfect timing.
Daura. Can we use the same comments with every AI tool, or does each AI have its own comment system? Are these comments only for Composer?
Oh, no, no, no. That's the cool thing. So the thing is that these commands are just pure skills that you can add to any agent. So it works with Cloud Code, Cloud Code. It works with Cursor. These are the ones that I test every day. But it would work with anything that supports agent skills. And even if it does not support agent skills, which would be weird, you could still have them in custom plug. You can create your own plugin from them or something for your tool. But usually everything supports skills to some extent today. So that's the cool thing. And you don't need to install any CLI or anything. It's just like this skills. And let's see what it did. So this is one of my favorite steps. This is what I call scaffolding. And scaffolding is that it just creates the skeleton, it's just the structure. It doesn't change anything. Usually it's super fast. I don't know why it had to do all this research. Usually it has everything. It doesn't even have to do that. So anyway, and so first it creates whatever files it's going to touch. It will create the class or the methods. It can even change the methods that are existing, and it will make things what we pre-created. So what is deprecation? What I call deprecation is this thing here. It's something that is deprecated because it's work in progress. Okay, this means that if anyone tries to import the paginator, it will obviously not work very well because it has nothing in it. But oh, I should update my skills so that it doesn't add on push. And here it's creating. You see, if I open my IDE here, and I see paginator, I will see that paginator is stricken through. There is a strike through because it's deprecated. So I can see that as a developer, and I could also instruct my. I could have like a check that makes sure we're not using any, or an ESLint rule that makes sure we're not using anything deprecated in our production code, etc. And the cool thing is that it also created the skeleton for my tests. But just in plain English, it copied the exact English sentences that are easier to review than pure testing code. And it gave me my to-do tests so that I can implement them. And then the next step is to write this, to make this test, to write the failing test. So this is the red step. So remember, so just to show you back to our slides. Oops, sorry. Back to our slides. So we wrote the design doc, we scaffolded the files, we created the skeletons, and now I'm writing the failing tests. Okay, and the cool thing is that it's done. It's super quick. It's just a few seconds generally, except the initial scaffolding that went wrong this time. But anyway, so here it did just disable previous when I'm on the first page. So offset is 0. The button previous, I click on it, it's disabled. I'm using VTest browser mode, so it's super cool. And it's doing all the polling and everything. I don't have to care about when stable and blah blah blah. So it's pretty nice. Plus, it's really testing in the browser, etc. But that's another topic. And now I can say, and this is a commit, and I can commit like a failing test. And now I'm like, okay, please make it green. And it will make this test pass. So it will first enable the test. Now it's running the test via Wallaby, and I'll tell you more about Wallaby.js just afterwards. And the test passed. The other tests are in to do, so that's cool. And it's implemented the feature here. And it's only implemented. This is super hard. Only Frontier modules follow my instructions of not doing more than what the test is asking for. And now my test is passing. And how does this work? Well, this works because under the hood, I'm using, well, like it could use any CLI, so it can use the Angular CLI to run the test and wait for the feedback. It can use VTest and run the test and check if the tests are passing. And here I'm using a tool called Wallaby.js. Well, it's not free. That's one of the drawbacks, but it's really super cool because it can. So you can see your tests running here. Oh, I have just a little cache problem with that other test we don't care about. And what interesting about it is that you can see things happening live here in your code. So for example, if you want to debug something, you're like, oh, like imagine I'm in the paginator and I don't know, like here I'm in the constructor of the component and I have like some signal here that's 42. And here, I don't know why there is something weird and I want to debug this. It shows you the logs directly next to your value. And even if it's not there, you can debug like this. You can see the value and you have super instant feedback And for instance, if I don't know, if I make a mistake here, or the agent makes a mistake, you see the test is failing. You have like coverage of the template and everything, and you can jump to the failing test and debug it there. You can see the values anywhere, and it's instant. You don't have to start a debugger and then go with a breakpoint. And really, if you want to debug, well, with Wallaby, you can debug the test like this, and it shows you the story. It tells you what happens with this test is that it first mounts the components, then it will set the inputs, then it will render the component like this. Internally, it will wait for stability if there is, but there's none, so it's not waiting. And now it's checking if the button is disabled, blah, blah, blah. And now it's evaluating this expression. It's if the offset is disabled or not, etc. So that's really, really cool when you wanna debug. And one of my favorite things when you debug with this tool is that, well, this was just a parenthesis, is that it shows you like you can move forward. And usually when you debug, one of the problems is that you step forward too fast. So you want to step back, and here you can step back and see the state of whatever you want and put a console log, etc. So super cool. Anyway, so what's interesting about this tool today, it's not the debugging features. What interests me more is that the agent can communicate with the Wallaby and ask it if the state of the test. It doesn't have to wait for the test to run. The Wallaby remembers the state of the test and it will respond instantly. And they started with an MCP server, then realized that MCP servers, which are like tools which are like servers that you add to your workspace or your machine that provide tools to your AI assistant. And here I can ask about, with the Wallaby skill, I can run the test, and you see it didn't run them. It remembers the last result. So it's just, you have one session, it's stateful. So I can see what's happening instantly. And more interestingly, the agent has skills that are provided by Wallaby, and it can ask not only if the test is passing or not, but it can say in the meal planner spec here, line 10, what's the value of burger? And here, okay, like in this file, what's the value of burger? And it says in the burger, you have a burger, what's a delicious burger, picture, blah, 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 etc. So the agent has runtime values. So this is why, so sometimes people are like, yeah, but does TDD still make sense today with agents? Because AI can produce good code pretty quickly without tests, then add tests afterwards. But beyond the helpfulness for us as humans, agents can use the tests to make the test pass. So sometimes the code is pretty simple like this. So I don't want to write the tests one by one. Now that it's good, let's get back to our agent. And here I can say charted red all. Oh, sorry, not PR2. Just PR1, or be more precise about recipe paginator spec.ts. And now look at this, it's gonna write all the tests. Okay, they look good. This is something I can review. It's okay. 3 tests that look the same are cheap for my brain to review, so I'm fine with that. And then I can make them all green. Paginator browser. And the part that I love is when you have like your test here, and you can see, if I'm fast enough, you can see the agent enabling each test. You can see the tests. Sometimes you have time to see it fail. You see it implements the offset change when you emit one on previous, then it enables the other test, and it can do that progressively. So anyway, so that's how I can do that in small steps or larger steps. That's how I decide. And recently, I've added another skill, because sometimes you work on some design doc and you don't know where you're at and you have many things to do. So one of the things is that each time the agent finishes something, like the feature is done, the task is done, or the test is done, or the PR is done, it will mark it, it will add a check mark on it. So that's also something you have to review. You have to say, oh, okay, that's good. It's checked marked the right thing. I agree with that. And then one of the cool things is that you can just click charted continue. And here it's because in Cursor, you can take any skill and then you can pin it so that the next time just click on it and it does it. And charted continue is something that will analyze the design doc. It will see where you're at and it will move to the next step, whatever it is. Is it scaffolding, red, green, etc. And it just does the work. And that's it. And so usually what I do, I just click charted continue, and then I wait for generally less than a minute. So sometimes I can work on 2 PRs at the same time, depending on the complexity. I have 2 agents working on different things, and I'm just waiting for this, and then I do the other thing, and then I let's see what happened here. So usually I commit at each step. Here I didn't do it. So I'm gonna just show you this, then I'm done with this. Oh, here, this is interesting. So here the scaffolding, let's look at the change. The scaffolding changed the signature of the recipe search so that it has the filter, but also the search, the pagination parameters. I will probably ask it to rename this parameter. And if there are these pagination parameters, it will throw an error because it's not implemented yet. So this is part of the scaffolding. You add the parameters, but they're not supported yet. We will support them later. And if I have a look at these search parameters, well, it should have been deprecated, but it didn't. So I can ask it to do that to make sure, etc., etc. And this is how I can continue. So usually what I do, this is my workflow. I just commit the changes like this. And then while it's figuring out the right commits, I'm like, next you can start the charted continue, you can move to the next step. And usually what I do, while I'm reviewing what it did, I'm already asking it to do the next step, you know. So I'm always like doing this charted coding thing. I'm like, okay, do the next step, like write the test or whatever, then commit. And then you know what, afterwards, once you commit, start the next step. And in the meantime, I'm reviewing. And if I see any problem or anything, I just stop, I revert to the previous commit, or I ask it to fix that, etc. So this way it's working while I'm reviewing and I'm working on the next step, and I'm controlling the gates and the steps. It's not just like starting so many things at the same time. And the cool thing is also by committing after each step, if you have like other people reviewing your code, it makes everything easier. Like here, let me just revert to the previous step. And for instance, here I have like the last solution in this branch. Here, this is just a little tool. That probably deserves to be open source someday. And here we go. Okay. Wait, I cannot see. Okay, so here, what I did, it's just a little tool that shows the commits based on because the problem with GitHub, for example, and GitLab, etc., you don't have like, you cannot tag commits. You can tag PRs. It's all about PRs. And the problem is that with AI, I've seen this a lot. People tend to do a lot of cascading PRs. You know, like you make PR1 and then there's PR2 that depends on blah, blah, blah. It's just like terrible to review and stuff. So here I just have like one branch where I'm working, or we can be multiple people working on the same branch, which is another topic that I can talk about the next time. And here I can see this commit is one of the hardest to review because it's red because there's many lines, and it's just a design doc change. I'm like, okay, this is good. So I can review this. and it opens GitHub here, and I can just review the design doc, put my comments on GitHub, and etc. And then here I can say, okay, this is reviewed, and then here I can see this is just scaffolding. So this is super easy to review. It's just the to do. Okay, this is quick, all good to me, nothing fancy. Just this is done. This is just the tests. Oh, just the test. These are the most important ones. This is what I want to read first before looking at the implementation. I'm like, how does the test look like? Oh, this is good. I love the scenario. This is perfect. And this is reviewed. And finally, this is where the feature is. And I can see the design doc, everything is checked, blah, blah, blah. And the implementation of this PR is here. And I can see the progress of that thing. And so what I want to highlight here is not this tool in itself, because it's not especially interesting. What's interesting is that in terms of review, I really have a story that says, okay, there's the design doc, then there's a scaffolding, then there's tests. And these tags you can tag, we can figure out in the future some tool that does this, and you can have like, you can, or just some convention like here that says, okay, this by conventional commits, I know that this is just a test, this is a design doc, etc. And it's way more readable and easier to review. Okay, so that's all for this demo. Let me just summarize this in one little. How much time do we still have? 5 minutes? Or
Yeah, we can.
we can stay the whole day. It's good for me. I'm all good. So let me just show you this. So I did some measurements, and I've used like spec kits for the same feature, and I was like, okay, please write the spec, now clarify the specification, it checks that everything is consistent, now make a plan, define the tasks, analyze if everything is consistent, now implement. And I compared this to charted coding. So I did the same, charted design, review, multiple scaffolding. Here I did only 3 scaffold the whole PR, and then do all the tests. I could have done 9 scaffold, because I could have, just 1 scaffold. I could have done like 9 red, because I'm like, make just this test red, just this test red, etc. And what I discovered is that in terms of LLM cost, for this scenario, it was basically the same price. Charted coding was a bit more expensive. It's consumed as many tokens. And in fact, when you go with baby steps, with more checkpoints, you tend to use more tokens, because each time I ask the agents to do like write a failing test, I have a new session so that it's not polluted by anything. So it's really focusing just on that test, or when I'm making the test green, I don't want the test to read the specification and everything. I'm just like, make this test pass, figure it out. And or it can really like have a look at the design doc if it really needs to. But what was more interesting is that the real cost, as I said at the beginning, it's not the LLMs again. Yes, they can be expensive, but there's worse. And the worst thing is wasting time reviewing. And so what I realized is that first, when you ask SpecKit to implement the whole thing, and I said common SpecKit because again, people who use SpecKit will say, yeah, you can configure this and that, you can do baby steps. And if you just don't do the baby steps, you pay $3, $5, $10, $100, and then you get the results. And if you're not happy with that, you throw that away. And it happened to me. Like spend a lot of money on something and just throw it away. And with charted coding, well, you can go with baby steps, but because here when I was asking it to implement each thing at a time, each block that has to make a test pass did not need lots of context, because it just needs to read the test, few files, and the implementation. And so each step is the steering cost is cheaper. And what's interesting, and something we can correlate, but it's not automatic, is that the LLM cost is also the task duration. So this also means that when I use something like SpecKit implements on the common SpecKit workflow, it will take maybe 10 minutes or half an hour to just implement this whole thing that I cannot review as a human. But with charted coding, this means each thing that is less than 50 cents or less than $1 is usually something that took like 30 seconds or 1 minute, and except when it starts indexing a lot of things and doing lots of research. So the other thing that you realize is that with SpecKit, look at how many words you have to review in Markdown. It's just terrible. It's just like almost reading a little book. And with the charted coding, because the tasks are really focused, the design docs has really to fit on your screen. It should not be very big, except for the test scenarios that are verbose. It's super easy to review, and more importantly, you don't have to review it. Why? Because it's usually something that you write as a team, like as a pair. You're like two of you sharing your tool or screen or whatever and writing that together. And finally, when you review the code, you can see that each time I pass charted green, charted red, charted scaffold, I never review more than 100 lines. And so in total, that was the fascinating thing, is that the sum is not exactly the sum of the lines, because some like scaffolding will create the to do, then it will remove the to do and implement the test, so it's but at the end you only have 350 lines of code. And that's something that happens a lot, is that with charted coding, I've tried many times with more complex tasks, etc. It produces half the code for the same outcome. And if the more you let the agent just go rogue, it will write more code than necessary, because it tries something, it doesn't work, so it adds another condition. Except if you add more skills that say, oh, step back, etc., etc., it becomes very complicated. And so there's less review fatigue, because you only review steps. And then the cool thing also is about review fatigue is that before agents, the typical day would be you start coding, you review some coworkers' PRs together, ideally, and then at some point you're tired. So you're tired. What do? You stop coding because you cannot code anymore, and you go sleep. Now, when you're tired, what do? You do charted continue, commit, or you do not, or you just review, like accept. With charted coding, given that each time you will have to call charted coding and it's going to be like one step and you're going to review that baby step, you can stop at any moment, and it's not a problem because it's not like a huge thing to review. You're not going to get lost. And given like at each step, sometimes you will challenge your design, etc., you can stop at any time. And it's not something that will just have to, you will never end up reviewing hundreds of lines. And again, in this example, the feature is simple. It's just like pagination. But I've tried this with much more complex topics, and the key thing is that if you design your code so that you can split complexity into different things, etc., everything stays simple to review. So there's no catch. And so that's it. So if you want to give it a try, well, you just have to run npx skills add Marmicode skills, and you install the skills, and it will ask you what AI agent you're using. It will configure the symbolic links, etc., as you want. And so the steps are charted design to add this charted design skill, the charted review skill, the scaffolding to do the rubricated code, the charted red to write the failing test in to do, and the charted green that will make the test pass. The examples that I put in the skills might be a little bit Angular biased, but in the future I will probably split that again away. But they're just examples. So agents are generally good at like seeing, okay, this is an example for this framework. I'm using this framework, and they can translate, transpose, not translate. They can transpose to the other framework. And what's more important there is more about the workflow, what's in the design doc, etc. And so you have like the key thing is that you stay focused, you have a controlled trajectory. It's not the agent going rogue, and you never lose control. And it might sound slower, but actually the good thing with this is that I never waste time reviewing something that I throw away, or let slop code slipping through when you have to review it afterwards. So that's all, and you will find. Oh, what's that emoji there? You will find the code in the skills, in the slides. I didn't put the link to the skills there. I will add it. Well, anyway, you will find it in the slides, and on this QR code, and I can share the link. I can share the link with Ilya, so you can maybe put it on the YouTube channel.
Yeah,
The
yeah.
video,
I
because
will write some post on LinkedIn with the links, all the codes.
okay, cool, cool. Oh, that's perfect. And so you'll have and you will have access. Oh, sorry, you will find the link to my Angular testing video course. There's been a lot of change in the testing era with area with on Angular, especially with VTest browser mode that I'm add in there. And there's also in the future I will probably add some stuff about Wallaby.js and things like that, and how to integrate like even VTest with your AI workflow, stuff like that. And there is a it's a present because there's a you can register your email there and respond to the feedback form. So I can, because the feedback form is asking you about like well, what you thought about this. And also I'm really curious about like your testing challenges and AI challenges and questions. I pick people from that list and offer the course to some winner. So that's going to be picked randomly. So register if you want to win the video course. And there are some free chapters there, by the way. So if you want to register directly to the video course, you can. And I'll be organizing some Angular testing workshop and a workshop on charted coding and some other workshops that will come up along in September. And you have like the early bird that applies, but that's not the good discount. Oh, nah, that's the good discount. You get like a 25% discount on like my upcoming workshops. And there's the charted coding 1 day workshop about like this whole workflows and spec kits and open spec and some practices around this. So I'm finally done. So if you have any questions,
Mhm.
I'm listening.
Yeah, okay. Thank you so much, Yunus. This is for this very useful and practical session. Today we learned that the AI can be a powerful assistant for developers, but only when we guide it with a clear direction, strong context, and a proper review. AI should not replace engineers' thinking. Instead, it should help us to uh, move faster while still respecting architect quality and real goals of the project. I also want to thank everyone who joined us live today. We hope this session gave you useful ideas that can apply in your own development workflow. Please follow NG Asia for upcoming meetups and feel free to share this session with other developers who are exploring AI assisted coding. Thank you again, Yunus, and thank you
You're welcome.
everyone for being part of NG Asia. See you at the next meetup.
Cool. Thanks. And are there any other questions, or we're
No, there is no questions.
okay? Good.
Yeah,
Cool. But
okay.
I wanted to add just one last thing, if I may.
Yeah, yeah,
Or
yeah, sure.
it's still running. Yeah. One thing also is that for me is very important is you have to figure out the right workflow depending on the task. So, for
Mm.
example, I do a lot of spikes. The spikes is like this exploratory code that you produce to see how things work. It's not a proof of concept or anything. It's just like you're like, please produce this. So this is the kind of things where you can just I just open a prompt on a frontier model and like make this kind of feature any way you think, or tell me what are the different ways and help me pick, or you know what, do it in all the different ways. And then I look at the code, I try it, and like, oh, this is slow, oh, this is fast, I love this approach. And from there I pick some ideas, or I ask it to summarize the ideas, etc. And that's where I go to my charted coding workflow. And also sometimes I have like just some little thing to refactor. I don't use any workflow at all. I just open a prompt. I'm like, refactor this, and that's it. And sometimes some tasks are simple, so I go with like more automated workflow. I'm like, use all chart coding red, green, blah blah blah, and do all these things, and it does the whole workflow alone. You can ask an agent to do that. So this is the thing, is that you have to really find the right balance, but always think of, yeah, humans at the center. Think of how people will review the thing. Will that be easy to review for them or not? Because I think that's one of the key values of extreme programming. As a extreme programming is a methodology of software development, but one of the key values in it is that respect. And the first one was like, what kind of respect? Of course, we respect each other, but one of the things is respect the other developers in terms of, if I do this code, will people understand this code afterwards, or will that get them scratch their head? If I make this big PR, will they be able to review it or not? So this is the kind of things you have to consider. It's just like, what's the impact on other human beings in my team?
Yeah. Thank you. Thank you. So,
Yes.
yes, thank you very much. Okay, we will end the live stream. So, see
Okay.
you next time.
Bye.
Okay. Yeah. I think, yeah.